Would you be afraid to play with a one-time MVP and one of the certified top 5 players in the sport of basketball? I don't think I would, or I don't think another NBA player would, but that seems to be what Jake Fischer is writing in the latest Yahoo Sports report. He did a nice deep dive, kind of laying out the plans for the Sixers offseason, looking at the different appealing factors, the options that this team has for filling out the roster and finding those big ticket players to complete this team, but had an interesting little dig in there about the perception of Joel Embiid from agents across the league. So to bring this up specifically, and this is brought up in the section when speaking about LeBron James, looking at the potential chances of him opting out and becoming available, that Fisher writes, the list of available players who can complete this formula for Philadelphia, though, is quite short. LeBron James can enter the open market if he declines his 24-25 player option, and the Sixers did secure a meeting with James in 2018 before the all-time great joined the Lakers in free agency. And yet, there's been no indication from league personnel with knowledge of the situation that James will truly entertain fleeing Los Angeles. Concerns about Embiid's availability to both play and play at full strength in the postseason will also be a factor. Multiple player agents told Yahoo Sports they would advise clients to consider before signing in Philadelphia. So it is specifically that last line here that rubs me personally the wrong way. It says concerns about Embiid's availability to both play and play at full strength in the postseason will also be a factor. Multiple player agents told Yahoo Sports they would advise clients to consider before signing with Philadelphia. Now, as it pertains to LeBron James in this situation, I get it. That LeBron is at the stage of his career where he does not want to be a guy that is, keeping a franchise above float on a night-to-night basis. And while there is already that relationship with Tyrese Maxey, the Clutch Sports relationship, the Chris Johnson Hoops relationship, the same trainer, same agency, it is a pipe dream that LeBron James is coming to Philadelphia. But for other players, you should be looking at this as an opportunity, that there's a unique chance that you have one of the best players in the sport, and there will be nights where you have to be that alpha dog. That should be a welcome challenge for players. And I think for a lot of guys, it still is. I think this is overstated in this article, but I do want to push back on some of these narratives that are kind of being leaned into here. For starters, the availability of Joel Embiid. I get it. He has his unique injury concerns. He has not gone through a season start to finish fully healthy, but we live in the modern NBA, and there's not a lot of players that do. That you can count on two hands the number of players who played a full 82 games this season. Shout out Paul Reed for being one of them. But to dive into how often Embiid does actually play, I did just want to pull this up here. So we'll start off with 31 games as a rookie, which was clearly intentional that they were very much limiting. Then 63 games, 64 games, 51 games, 51 games, 68 games, 66 games, and then 39, which is the lowest since his rookie year this year. But looking beyond that, the 66, the 68, the 64, the 63, that's about what you get nowadays. That is kind of the modern trend for how much that these guys play. So I will push back at that. And the other part that I will push back on this reputation that Joel Embiid is this postseason sinker, that he can't be a guy who rises up in the bigger moments. The bar is set so high for the dude that has literally been crowned the most valuable player in the league just last season that, when he is not playing this 50-point, 15 rebound, 10 block per night averages, we look at him a little differently. And to dive into what his playoff stats actually are, that this season he averaged 33 points, 10.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists in this year's playoffs, in these 6 games that he did play against the Knicks. Looking beyond that, we're talking about a season where he averaged 30, 28.1, 23.6, 23.7, the rebounding 12.6, 10.5, 12.3, that these are real deal fine numbers. That no, these aren't you're running to the bank and saying he played amazing, but he goes from a guy who's the best player in the league to an all-star. That is not regression that should be made. Like, this dude does not show up in big moments, and he still has had times where he shined. We have the game winner against the Raptors. I thought he was really good in this Knicks series, despite being whatever percent of himself that was the case. But in all this conversation, a lot of it is shifting to what's next. And there was another part of this article from Jake Fischer that I really like the way it was worded here, that being about Tyrese Maxey's emergence and what that means for the Sixers moving forward. So to dive into that section of things, he writes that, by that rubric, the emergence of Tyrese Maxey certainly helps Philadelphia's positioning. After his first All-Star campaign, Maxey was worthy of sharing the post-Game 6 podium with Embiid as he is shouldering the Sixers' future championship expectations. His near 50 ball in an elimination Game 5 at Madison Square Garden was the exclamation point to a developing belief around the organization. Camden, New Jersey, waterfront facilities, that Maxey is not only a bona fide Robin for Embiid, but someone capable of handling the torch once Embiid's dominance begins to fade. Quote, Maxey has a chance to do something special next year again, Embiid said. after the 76ers were eliminated by New York with this league's most improved player sitting by his side. Quote, I hope he becomes an All-NBA this year, but I think he can be in stuff like MVP conversations. I think he can take that next step. So I love the belief from Joel Embiid to express this outwardly here, and I love that I believe it as well. I love that from everything that we have seen from Tyrese Maxey, it's time to stop putting a ceiling on how good this dude can get. That he truly has improved leaps and bounds at a rate that I've never seen from a player. And once again, I will reference it that this was a dude that when he came into the NBA, the question is he a good enough shooter? Flash forward 3 seasons in the NBA, and he's in the top 5 in the NBA in three-point percentage for a season. And to dive into what his stats specifically look like, just take a look at these year-to-year improvements. From as a rookie, 8 points per game, 2.0 assists, 1.7 rebounds, and just 15.3 minutes per game. His three-point percentage as a rookie, just 30.1%. In year 2, look at that leap. The three-point percentage up to 42.7%, which was in the top 5 in the NBA for that season. And that was on 17.5 points per game. That he also added 4.3 assists, 3.2 rebounds, and then got better in year 3, improving those averages to 20.3 points per game, 3.5 assists, 2.9 rebounds, shot 43.4% on 6.2 three-point attempts per game. That is another real deal leap. And then this season, he became the most improved. He became an all-star, that he averaged 25.9 points per game, 6.2 assists, a massive leap as a playmaker this year. Also 3.7 rebounds. And while the shooting splits did climb down a little bit, shooting 37.3% from beyond the arc, I think the biggest reason, the driving force of that, is him having to be the guy without Joel Embiid for the extended point of the season. But there is a portion of this article that I would reference one more time. This was the line that stood out to me the most in the entire article here. And what he writes is that Maxey is not only a bona fide Robin for Embiid, but someone capable of handling the torch once Embiid's dominance begins to fade. That I cannot overstate how essential Tyrese Maxey has been to extending the championship window for this franchise. And the reason that I say that is with all these playoff questions with Joel Embiid and the stuff that I will give credit to, the stuff that I understand a little bit, there's just some inherent problems with building around a big man in the modern NBA, that you have to be really special or have some outside talents like Nikola Jokic as a playmaker to make things work. I do think there's a world where the best version, the most conducive to winning version of this Sixers team could be with Joel Embiid scaling back his offensive usage, maybe becoming that dominant defensive threat that he has been for stretches of time, not being a 35 point per game guy, but maybe, a 20 point and 15 rebound and 3 block per night type of guy. He absolutely is capable of that. And the reason that I bring this up in contrast to Maxey, or in comparison to Maxey here, is Maxey's got to be the guy taking the ropes here. And when speaking about this third piece, that's why you have to be so careful in choosing this correctly. That if you put all your eggs in the 34-year-old basket of Paul George to be the third star, that window's looking pretty narrow for when you can win a championship with. If you're bringing in a 27-year-old or a 29-year-old with a couple more seasons ahead of them, then you can talk yourself into, as Embiid continues on the downward spiral or downward slope of his career, as I do think we're at the near end of the peak of Joel Embiid. We will be beginning to look at it as he is 30, just turned 30 this offseason, and we know all the injury issues that there are, that the best version for this team could be Joel Embiid reducing how necessary it is, how much he has to carry from a workload standpoint on a night-to-night basis, but he's got to have other guys that can run with it. It's got to be Tyrese Maxey continuing to get better. It's got to be this third piece being capable of having games where he can take over, be that number one option. And then as a little side note to all this is there just has to straight up be a better plan for managing Joel Embiid's injuries. That I don't want him playing back-to-backs. I don't want him toughing through injuries through the regular season. Go into the season with the mindset that we're not trying to get to 65 games and have him in contention for MVP. Know the load management strategy going into the year and do not push him when opportunities that do not command for him to be pushed. The goal going into next year and every year moving forward should be we're doing whatever is necessary to have Joel Embiid at his healthiest come playoff time. If that means resting him for a straight month in the middle of the season, I don't care. Do it. Find guys that can carry the load. Have guys that can take over some of that scoring stuff. And once again, in Joel Embiid's a little bit of defense here, is in his mind, it's still the best option for him to go get a bucket on just about an every possession basis because that's the best route for them to score. That there aren't these other options that he can defer to. So from a roster construction standpoint, you have to find those before this plan can come into action. But I do think there's a world where this all works together, where you find a third piece, a guy that is capable of stepping up, being a number one or a number two alongside Tyrese Maxey on the non-Joel Embiid games, and still leaving it to be compatible where this team can go to another level when all three are on the floor. So things absolutely have to go right this offseason, but I will push back that I don't think anybody is afraid to play with Joel Embiid. I get injury concerns are a thing, but if you're the player the Sixers should be looking for, you should welcome that challenge. You should be looking to step up on the nights in which the MVP is not there. You should be looking to be that complimentary piece, that third star when everybody is at full force, and it could build a pretty special team if that all comes together. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I was rubbed a little bit the wrong way by those quotes on Joel there. I think it was very much overstated in that situation, and I don't think it's really likely that a team is looking at that or a player is looking at that when it is a situation. But nonetheless, I do think the reputation is out there for Joel, and there's a little more of it pushed than I think deserved to be the case. So let me know what you think about all that. Drop that in the comments. Make sure you're dropping a like on this video to let me know you're listening. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep the Sixers Digest family growing right here. Peace.